There we go.
Trying to be all high tech, man. Use all my toys.
We gotta improvise sometimes. We'll make it happen.
All right, here we go. So let me ask you this: how would you, if you had to guess, how many podcasts have you been on, including your own?
Well, we just cracked 50 episodes.
Uh-huh.
Or no, was it 100? Actually, yeah, probably close to 100. So I'm gonna say probably maybe 150, 125.
You're a pro.
Oh no, man.
Yeah.
I mean, but that most of that is being in your seat. I'm rarely sitting in this seat.
Yeah.
Up until recently.
The reason you got famous.
Oh man, stop
You
it.
did.
Stop it, man.
Listen, man, I haven't seen anybody's career explode like yours over just a few month period.
I appreciate that, man.
It's powerful, man. But here's the cool thing. It's just a perfect combination of you found your thing. You're full of passion. You are an expert in your content. You're driven, and you're cool. You work hard.
No, the last one is really important.
No one wants to work with somebody that's not cool.
Heck no, man. Like you, if you're not cool, then why are we even doing this? I don't want to be friends with someone who's not cool.
All right, here we go.
Let's see, I gotta get you in this shot.
Kicking it off.
Oh, there we go.
Think. There we go. Teaching a rock star. Teaching a rock star podcast. Man, we've been busy. I've been on the road. It is summertime, and we are gearing up for August. I have dates galore in August, so we'll be on the road pretty much every day from the last week of July through the last week of August. And this weekend, on Saturday, I am keynoting the Texas Rural Educators Association Conference. So what it is, man, it is like the coolest bunch of superintendents in the state that all get together, and they're just awesome, and they lobby and do everything they can to support those rural schools that sometimes that when decisions are made at the state level, they're making decisions for inner city and suburban schools, and they just forget small town America.
Dude, that's awesome. Congrats on the keynote.
Oh, thanks, man. I love those guys.
I wish I could be there because I know you're gonna kill it.
I love it. And here's what's cool. Here's how I love it so much is my friend, his name is Morris Line. He's a superintendent in Hawkins ISD. He just got a bond pass. Way to go, Morris. And
Go, Morris.
and we did, Morris and I got together and thought, this oftentimes professional development for teachers, they just don't have the opportunity like some of these districts around here, where it's a Cy-Fair or a Fort Bend or a Katy or a Klein. They have a lot of stuff in-house they can do for teachers, but in small districts, they just don't have the resources. So we put together a Teach Like a Rock Star event on a Saturday, and teachers came in from all over Texas, all over East Texas, and it was amazing, man. We had such a good time. And what I love about those schools is there's such a close-knit community of teachers and kids because all live together, all in the same town.
They're neighbors.
Yeah, you can't be a knucklehead in your teacher's class when she lives next door.
Texting your mom.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, that was awesome. And then we're going to do some more work with them, and just amazing group. So I'm looking forward to it. All right. Khaliah.
How?
Khaliah, now, pronounce your last name.
Guillory.
Guillory. All right. Khaliah Guillory. And so let's recap. So you and I met at the TED conference here in Houston.
We
TEDx.
did. TEDx.
Yep. Hosted by Josh. And so as soon as we met, I thought, oh my gosh.
Same here, man.
Oh my gosh. She's cool.
That's my bro.
Oh my gosh. That's her. I've been looking for you.
Here I am.
I spent like a half a century looking for you, and I found you on a Saturday morning.
Ted.
Yeah, and I just been watching your career blossom. And if we could, let's kind of start there because if you could describe for people what you do, because it's so unique and so needed and such important work, how would you describe it?
I would say my value proposition is that I work with organizations to leverage inclusion so that they can improve performance, productivity, team member engagement. And that can be unpacked in so many different ways. Leadership, change management,
Sure.
inclusion, diversity. I mean, you name it, it really falls in that same bucket.
Yeah, and so from how long, when did you realize that this was your thing, like your passion, you're good at it?
Probably in college, man. I mean, I majored in communication. It probably, if I really think about it, it probably was sooner than that. So I played organized basketball since I was a peewee, right? And I always was nominated as the team captain. And one of the things that I really love to do is speak. I mean, so much so, dude, like on my report cards, I would get ends all the time because I was talking too much. Like, oh, she's enthusiastic, but man, she's like disturbing the heck out of her neighbors. She's like talking way too much.
And look at her now.
Boom. Take that, Sister Mary Agnes. And so, if I really think about it, it probably started way back when, but it resonated more so whenever I got into college. So I majored in communications, held down an internship at Magic 102, and they were well known in Orlando. I went to school at the University of Central Florida. Interned there through my roommate's boyfriend was a DJ, got me on as an intern. They said, yo, like when you graduate, we got a job for you.
Yeah.
Well, got dealt a different set of cards. My mother was diagnosed with ALS my senior year of college. Graduated, she saw it, moved back to Houston because my mother was in Port Arthur, and then she passed away a couple of months after that. And then I went into financial services. Kudos to my sister because she was tired of me borrowing money from her because I was unstable as a financial advisor. Because
lots of them are.
I mean,
they call them a broker for a reason.
Right, broker, because you're broke.
You're right.
Not all of them, but that was my situation. I was a snotty nosed green bean kid. Made 10 grand one month. The next month I'll make $1, right? And the next month I'll make $500. And so it was, my sister is older than I am, so she became my support system. And our mother had just transitioned. And who else was I going to call to borrow a buck? And so she got tired of it and was like, "You need to get something stable with benefits." And so she lived in Philadelphia, still does. Wachovia Bank. They owned the market share there at that point in time. They weren't here in Houston or even in Texas for that matter. And her friend, which was her banker, said, "Hey, your little sister might be a good fit for, banking. Has she ever considered financial services or banking through Wachovia?" Well, long story short, went to a job fair, interviewed on the spot, and that was all she wrote for the next 14 years.
Oh, man. You're in.
I'm in.
Here we go.
Like, first it was just like, oh, let me collect a check. And then I was like, well, I think this actually can be a career. And I started taking it seriously, applying myself.
Yeah.
And then that was it. It just exploded.
And so on the financial services side, were you selling Series 6, Series 7, 63?
6, 63, Group 1, license.
Yep.
But so that was a part of it, right? So I went from a financial advisor to selling those type of products to now I'm selling loans or I'm recommending loans. I'm recommending checking savings, debit cards.
Loans. Don't kid yourself.
Well, my former employer, let's just say I wasn't selling. I was recommending.
Got it.
Well, because honestly, there's a big difference, right? Is I always lean towards on the recommendation of it because I never like to be sold. And I made a point that I'm not going to sell you anything because I feel like when I'm selling something or you being sold something, you might not have the customer in mind. So my approach always was customer centric, despite the fact that I had these BHAGs, these big, hairy, audacious goals that I had to hit. But it was always at a benefit for the customer. Like if it didn't make sense for them, I wasn't going to recommend it.
Yeah.
I just had to figure out.
But sometimes, isn't it true, man? It's just like teaching. Sometimes you got to sell them on what's right for them.
Well, yeah. So outside of selling products,
because they're going to come in with an idea their neighbor told them.
Yeah, because one of the things that I used to share with them, something as simple as direct deposit, it used to be my toughest recommendation. Wow, I'll just come in. I was like, but wait a minute. You have 3 kids. Right. You're working 50 hours a week.
When are you coming in?
What if I just save you a quick trip to the bank? Right. You don't want the thing just to show up on Friday morning?
Yeah. Sold. Recommended.
Done.
Yeah. and so you were in the corporate life. Let me ask you, because that's not for everybody. Like,
it's not.
When you were in it, did you love it? Like in the heyday of it all?
Oh, in the heyday, like that was it. I just knew I was going to retire as a corporate exec. Once I got serious with it, every year I would sit down every January 1, because we're off January 1, January 2. It was back into the whole
especially
swing of
banking.
things, especially banking. I would sit down and write out my whole intentions and my goals for that year. And then, I would check it throughout every quarter.
Yeah.
Compared it to my manager. And that was the difference is, I was very intentional about what I wanted to accomplish. It was always, hey, when you get promoted, I need you to promote me. And here's why.
Right.
And have a brag book to remind.
Yeah. And ask for it.
This is the why. Yeah. Ask for it. And that's why it's not for everybody, because some people aren't comfortable with asking for what they want. And when we ask for what we want, typically we get it.
Yeah.
Might not happen like in this moment, but we'll get it eventually.
Let me ask you this though: do you think it's also true that in the standard corporate environment, those people are critically needed too? The people that don't ask for it, the people that just kind of come along and are workers.
It's just like the world, right? Like we need everybody. We need those people who are not motivated. We need people who are motivated, and we need the people all in between because that's just what makes the world go round.
Yeah, but the sad cases are those people are sitting in that pool of people that really have it in them, but for whatever reason just can't express it, can't ask for it, can't.
Fear. That fear will get the best of you if you let it.
Yeah.
And I do this Jedi mind trick. I play this Jedi mind trick with myself. Is that I trick myself into thinking that fear is my friend. It's my ally.
Yeah.
Like I need fear to make me hungry, to make me want to do this and go out and achieve that thing and embrace it.
Yeah.
Because without fear, then it's like pie in the sky. It's like, like everything's great, but that's not life. That's not realistic.
Yep. There's something about it too. For me, I think for a lot of people that do what we do and stand before crowds, and there's some part of the personality that when you feel the fear, you are like, now I have to do it. Like now that I know that scares me.
Yeah, okay, I gotta do it now, right?
Yeah.
Because it's gonna keep coming, right? It's gonna keep like poking at you.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, fear. Fear's like, hey, girl, what you gonna do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Even back in high school, were you ever shy and reserved, or was this always you?
Always me, man.
Yeah.
Like literally enthusiastic. I could have brought my card, and even as early as the first grade. That was consistent all the way up. I was enthusiastic, but I talk too much.
Bring the hype. Yeah.
Bring it up, man.
Yeah. Now that's fascinating because I always wonder like how much is that nature nurture when it comes to kids in a classroom. There's a kid like you in every class,
Totally.
And sitting in the front, driven, raising hand, talking, connecting, like the type A, that whole thing. But there's other kids they're just not wired that way.
They're not. They're not.
Which is fascinating for me. Like that's the best part about being a parent, because as a parent, you realize, oh my gosh, my kid just came out like that. You can say there's a lot that goes into parenting, but some kids are just born.
That's how they are.
That's how they showed up on a planet.
Well, I have two. I have a niece and two nephews, and the baby, who's I believe he's 12 now. I mean, the way he is now at 12, completely different than the oldest, who I was just speaking to on the phone. He's 22. So you're talking a 10-year age difference, and I mean their personalities are night and day.
Yeah.
Totally at that age.
Strange.
Yeah, right. I mean, but it's cool because now because I'm in their lives, I see the oldest, his personality is shifting or pivoting, or he's becoming more comfortable in his skin.
Sure, yeah.
Whereas the baby, I mean, he came out comfortable in his skin. He's like, hey, here I am.
Let's do this. I was sitting in a meeting when I was about 22 or 23. I was in my first job, and I was in a small town in Pettis, Texas, and we're sitting at a table talking about a student who was having challenges, and I'm just, I was a 22. I know everything. So I'm just telling, I've been teaching for like 6 months. I'm an expert at this.
You're an expert, man. Subject matter expert.
And so I'm just dishing it out. And there's a parent of the kid, and she puts her hand on the table. She goes, excuse me, can I ask you a question? I go, yeah, please. She goes, you don't have kids, do you?
So clearly, you have no idea what the heck you're talking about.
But I was like, what is that? Rude,
Yeah.
But like
Until
the
you
day
got
I
kids.
had kids, I went, oh my, that woman
She was right.
so right. But looking back, so gentle.
She was she saved you.
She really
from
did.
a lashing that you could have got. Perhaps that was deserved.
Yeah, I mean, looking back, I mean, there's so much you don't take into consideration until you have a personal experience watching a child in your life, whether it's your kid or a close somebody in your family. You grow up and realize, oh my gosh, I saw that personality on day 3 of his life.
Yeah, it's wild, right?
Yeah.
It's so wild, and I mean, and I think the other piece of this is the society and the world we live in. Now it's hey, give the kid the freedom to explore their identity and be who they are, and I mean that. So I remember that specifically with my youngest nephew is if he wanted to wear plaid and polka dot one day to school, well, he wore plaid and polka dot.
Yeah, Let's get crazy.
Yeah, like, and I mean that's the style now. That's the norm. Maybe he had some vision in fashion before
he's on
that.
the cutting edge, man.
But with the oldest, I don't think he would have got away with that.
Yeah.
So in 10 years, that variance of the swing is society is also somewhat dictating how we allow us as humans to be with each other, with kids.
Yeah. Hey, did you like high school?
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved high school. Like
Some
high
people
school was
thrive
really
in it.
good, man.
Yeah.
Like I loved high school. I played basketball. So,
Mm-hmm.
I was always active. I was always moving. I grew up in a small town. Shout out to Port Arthur, Texas. Population 50 some odd
There's some
thousand
famous
folks.
people from Port Arthur.
Some very famous people from Port Arthur. We produce winners.
Who's from there?
Khaliah Guillory.
That's right.
Jimmy Johnson.
I was gonna say Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah, Steve Jackson. He's a commencer or announcer on ESPN. I mean, there's like
Isn't
a
that,
host of football
the
players.
singer? What's her name?
Janis Joplin.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like we could. I mean, you
Something's
should
in the
come, man.
water.
Go to the museum.
Something's in the water. Yeah.
Don't drink it now, but back then, yes.
Yeah. What do you think the difference is between you, there's some kids that thrive and some kids that just getting through the grind. They're just doing time.
Yeah.
What was it for you that really? I mean, you're excited. Just to this day, you're still excited talking about high school.
Totally. I mean, high school was good. For one,
Yeah.
I had really good friends. I surrounded myself by friends who are still my best friends today. We just celebrated we went to our 20-year class reunion a couple of weekends ago.
Yeah.
And it was just good. It was just like we haven't skipped a beat. And then I would say that the top three things would be exposure. So my family exposed me to a lot at a very early age. And from that small town, which is minority driven, is black and brown people is the total population for the most part. I was exposed to different cultures at an early age. I went to private school. I went to Catholic school up until the 7th grade when I begged my mom, "Hey, I need to play basketball and I need to be a part of an organized team within my school, and I can't do that if I'm."
Right.
Reporting to St. James Catholic School.
Sister Agnes can't shoot.
She can't shoot. How's she even gonna see where?
She came out with those shoes. Come on.
And so exposure was key. Being exposed at an early age to different cultures and people who didn't look like me and didn't come from where I come from within our little town. And the second piece is just the God-given talent that I was given. If you met my parents, you would think, "Oh, your personality is nothing." Like my parents were, my mother, my father is still alive, but you meet him.
Yeah.
If you would have met my mother, it would have made sense. Like, you're a product of them. And I think what happens is that when I was in the third part is I was raised to totally be me. I mean, I was a tomboy early on. I told my mom I've had it after my first communion. This was the last time I'm putting on a dress willfully. I mean, I wore one for prom, but like if hindsight is 2020, I can go back. I would have totally wore a tux.
Done the tux thing.
I would have been bold and courageous, but I was just too afraid. Like, man, what are people gonna think about me? I'm in this small town. I love high school. Like, forget it. But they gave me the freedom to explore who I was. I mean, I was shopping in the men's department in middle school.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was cool because my mother, my family, they were very progressive in thought, and that shaped me who I was today. And they made some hiccups along the way. So have I. But the difference is that in those moments, those critical times in our lives when we're being shaped and molded and morphed, when we forget about that childlike wonder, we need people to allow us the freedom to be who we really are and explore what that looks like.
Yeah. That's good. Man, you had it going on. But most kids don't have that.
Oh man, I mean, but I grew up it was like everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
And even those kids, if I think back to those kids who perhaps weren't like that, I would want to explore the fact that perhaps they weren't given that opportunity to really truly be who they were.
Yeah.
It was inflicted like, you're gonna be like this, or you're gonna be like that, you're not gonna be like me, and it was just too much pressure versus just saying, be who the heck you want to be.
Sure.
I'll be right here to support you.
Yeah. Just having the freedom to have some thoughts too, as well.
That's it.
Yeah. And I can't tell you how many times I'd be sitting in a class and I would hear a kid say something that I really wonder if the kid, I know for a fact the kid never really had the moment or maybe the freedom to think about it. And they would say something, well, that's just the way I was raised. That's what my mom's thought, and my grandmother thinks that too, so that's the way I think. And I thought, well, wait a minute.
Yeah.
It's possible that you might have a different thought and a different belief system, which is okay.
It's totally okay. I no longer am a practicing Catholic, and it's totally okay.
Yeah.
Because I was given the freedoms to explore who I want to be. And my oldest nephew called me up a couple of months ago and said, "Hey, I know you're gonna probably freak out, but I'm conflicted with my faith, and how do I really know that God is a he? What if he's a she?" And I'm thinking,
Yeah.
dude, like if I could have got that at 22, I would have been so further along the road. And even not even got the principle of it, but the concept of thinking beyond what we've been conditioned to think.
Sure.
Because it's all conditioning. right? You know, it's like those kids that you're referring to in the classroom that, maybe we're just in the back and they really didn't have nothing else going on. I would be curious of the behaviors of their parents. Like,
Absolutely.
were their parents like that?
For sure.
Because I'll be shocked. I don't have any kids right now, but we're planning on having a family. I'll be shocked if my kid is like sitting in the corner in the back.
Yeah.
I'll be very shocked. Like, where did you come from? Who are you?
Yeah, but at the same time, man, you never know
You
who's
just
going to
never
show
know.
up.
Yeah. See, and I don't know. You know, because you have kids.
Wait till you see. You just don't know. And
Yeah.
I think even those belief systems, whether it's in terms of faith, and for me, those people that have the deepest, let's just say, a Christian faith, as an example, are the ones that had conflicted thoughts at some point, and they really analyzed it on their own and thought, okay, how am I going to make sense of this in my world so that it's a loving, meaningful faith for what's right for me.
And sometimes it's not going to make sense.
Yeah.
Sometimes we get so our thoughts are taken over by the fact that we got to make sense of everything. Like everything has to make sense, and some things in the world are just not meant to. They're just meant to be there, and it's up to us to move on past it and keep on going, or to get stuck at that juncture, and then we could look up 10 years later, we're still stuck there.
Yeah.
I don't want to be stuck. Forget this.
No.
Gotta move on.
And so you were playing basketball, and then were you thinking that could be a ticket to college?
Oh, it had to be, because my older sister, who's 8 years older than I am, she went to school, Prairie View University here in Houston.
I went there. I did.
You went to Prairie View?
I went there for my master's.
What? Yeah. You were so dope.
I did. Yeah.
See what I mean? Look how cool you are, man. Like, you were already like here. Like, you're through the roof now.
When I walked in,
it was like, hey, HBCU, I'm Hal. What's going on?
Good to see you. Yeah. And so your sister went there. She's 8 years older.
8 years older. She went there, civil engineering degree. And my mother sat me down and said, hey, your sister's, she's in the 5-year degree plan. Might take her 6. So, we paying for all her college. I'm not sure there's going to be any money for you.
Right.
And so, it goes back to planning, right? Is breaking that generational curse that just because my sister went to school, what about me? I'm the baby in the family. Like, there wasn't like an extra plan. And, there weren't anyone going around knocking on doors in Port Arthur saying, hey, here's this college plan. Here's a 529. Here's something you could put $25 every pay period into it for your kids' college and have something that's oatmeal is better than no meal.
Right.
And so I said, okay, well, cool. And that was like the debate. Well, I got to go to public school because I knew I wanted to play basketball and I knew I was pretty good at it. But I knew I needed to get some additional coaching and training and be around that environment so that I could have an opportunity to earn a scholarship. That was like one of my big things to do. I watch basketball with my grandfather all day long sometimes. Like it was March Madness. Like that was our time, man. Like sun up to sundown. Yeah. And so I finally convinced her, and then boom. It was just the alignment, right? We spoke about this a lot off air. Is our alignment, my alignment and timing was perfect. I always have been blessed with coaches who believed in me, who saw my potential, who made sure I got the right exposure at the right time. I mean, it just happened that way.
Yeah, and when you were in school, did you make that known to your coaches? Hey, this is a stepping stone because I'm going to college.
Well, so when I got to the 7th grade, that was my first year in public school, and so
was that a shock, by the way?
Yeah, it was a transition
for
sure because I wasn't exposed to those. I was exposed to a certain kind of kid. And because we all grew up together, like we started in Montessori, pre-K, and then we all like grew together. So those were like my peeps.
Yep.
And then when I went, we wore uniforms.
Yep.
And then going to middle school was, hey, you got the latest Versace or the Hirachi shoes, or you're wearing Jabot jeans. And it's like a completely different animal. And these kids are like, they don't have the parameters that we had. No,
and you can't kick them out.
You can't kick them out, right? And then I'm not going to mass every single morning anymore, And now I'm behind in math because now I'm thinking, oh gosh, all that time I spent in church, I should have been praying for better math skills.
Right.
But it was just a different beast, right? And I transitioned fairly well. I don't recall having any issues. But it was just being exposed to basketball in a different environment there. And so the high school coach would hang out in middle school. And I was in the 7th grade, and he was going to the 8th grade games. And I think he saw me practicing one day, and he told the coach, she needs to play with the 8th graders. She needs to get more challenge. And sure enough, I was playing with the 8th graders. And then that summer, from 8th to 9th grade, he invited me to come work out at his high school his high school gym.
Yep.
And he said, hey, if you really like work hard at this, I think you got what it takes to get a scholarship.
That's where it goes down. Summer open gym.
Open gym, man. So anytime you were looking for Khaliah Guillory in the summertime,
Open gym.
Open gym. Even got a job there.
Really?
Yeah, so I was like, I can work here. I get paid to open the gym and I'm playing all day.
Right.
Score.
Yeah. And so he saw the talent and he thought, all right, we got something to work with here. Yeah. And when I talk to coaches about this, they say when you see like a Division I athlete in high school or junior high, it's like a neon sign with an arrow pointing down on the kid's head.
Yeah.
And not, there are very few of them, and typically whether it's football or baseball or basketball or softball or lacrosse or whatever it is, but they say like it's a night and day difference between a Division
I agree.
athlete.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it's so many just on the outside looking in, but internally it's a different person.
Yeah.
It's like the work ethic, the discipline that it takes. It's, waking up early and in the summertime, going to open gym and being there all day and running as many games as I could and, going to AAU. And it takes a tribe, right? Like my mother had to pay extra money in the summertime. And I remember her working overtime so that she can afford my AAU trips and afford my sneakers and afford everything else that came along with that. I mean, because sports, you have kids,
Sure.
right? I mean, just extracurricular activities is extra.
Everything costs money. Everything. It doesn't matter if it's organized.
Like you to bake.
Just feeding them, taking them everywhere. It's expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it is this full community family effort
Totally.
to support you.
Totally.
And looking back, because did you realize it then? Because you're a kid, did you realize there was so much combined effort going in just for you?
No, not until I got to probably like midway through college. I realized the sacrifices, because I was a selfish, snotty-nosed kid. It was like, it's all about me and my basketball. And then to realize like the sacrifice it takes, it's like, I know mom's like, working extra so I can get into AAU, but going into college was like, man. Like, my mother worked at a refinery for 33 years. Like, in the summertime, she's out driving a forklift machine so I can be able to go to AAU.
Powerful. Moms are cool.
Dude, man, my mom got the award, man.
Yeah.
Like, she sacrificed way too much for me to play small. And that has been my motto ever since. That's my driving force. When I think about her sweating with a jumpsuit on in the middle of summer driving a forklift.
It's hard to settle for less than you deserve when you think about what your mom did to support you.
Man, totally. It wasn't just her, it's my grandfather. It's like me and my sister. It was the full tribe of my family.
Yeah.
And I can't let them down. Because back then it was just like, I was ungrateful. You got to do this for me, but they didn't have to. My mom could have easily said, no, I could get a heat stroke.
Yeah,
or
right.
I'm not going out there. Like, forget it. Figure out another way. Yeah. Call your dad.
Yeah.
Because my dad and I, at this point, our relationship was non-existent. So, there's so many different ways that could have went, but for her to step up and
Was
support me.
your dad still in the home or did they split up?
No, he was never in the home. So, up until 2 years ago, I could probably count on two hands the amount of times I've interacted with my dad. And I'm well into my 30s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you were born into a home where the dad wasn't participating.
Nope.
Okay.
So my grandfather then became my dad. I would give him Father's Day cards.
Did you have stepdads coming in?
I had one stepdad.
How'd that go? Okay.
It was that fast.
Yeah.
So
It was a stepdad.
yeah, it was a step. Thank God, Mom. You getting divorced? Great, sweet.
Yeah.
Let's get on with this.
I'll drive you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so now for your dad, on those few occasions where you guys saw each other and interacted, as a kid, God, it must be stressful and just the anxiety leading up to it.
I had cut him off because at that point, when I got into high school, it was like, I'm not missing. There was no void for me in that point. As I became older, there was definitely a void. But in that time, it was just like, well, I made it this far without you. I'm great. And my grandfather cares for me as if I'm his own kid. So it's not as if I was lacking anything or I was yearning for. Of course, everybody wants their father, but my grandfather made up for where I didn't get that with him.
Yeah. And today you guys are connected?
Oh, man, that's my buddy.
Really?
That's my buddy. Yeah.
In your mind, how did you justify all that time without him?
It took a while. Like, in full transparency, I was pissed with him.
Yeah.
I didn't want to have anything to do with him. But then one day I realized 2 years ago, like something's missing. Like I'm climbing the rung on the corporate ladder. I made VP, great. Like there's still a piece of me that was missing. Oh, I got married, great. Still a piece of me that was missing. And then it hit me one day. It's your dad. Your dad is walking around with all your power, and he doesn't even know it. Like he has no idea.
Yeah.
Because what happens is when we come from broken homes, we blame it on a parent. Sure, okay. Well, there's some things that they did, but as adults now we need to take ownership.
Yeah.
Right? Like it was when I'm waiting on him to call me after all these years. So I picked up the phone one day and said, "Hey, I'm ready," because we've had this conversation a couple of times, but I really wasn't ready to let the past be the past. Like I still wanted to hold him accountable for him not being there. And this particular call, I said, "Hey, let's let the past be the past, and I'm more interested in creating a new future with you." And yeah, sure, we could talk about what happened in the past, but I'm really not interested in that anymore. I just want to get to know you. Up until that point, I had no idea what his middle name was. I had no idea what his birthday was. I didn't know what he liked. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know I had 5 other siblings.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
It's a lot.
It's a lot. It's heavy. But had I allowed him to continue to walk around with my power, I would have never got it back and allow me to move on and do all the other things that I knew I was destined to do. Because my fear was holding my power hostage with my dad.
Yeah. So you called him up.
Call him up.
Was he ready?
He was ready. I think he was ready too. He just didn't know how to approach it.
Yeah.
You know? Like, because I had already been this angry kid that he had, which I was. I mean, I have a terrible temper tantrums every once in a while. It's under control now in my
Thank
adulthood,
you.
but
I appreciate it.
like,
Easy.
yeah, but you know, I could think back to some conversations that I had in my 20s when, you know, I had just lost my mother, who was my one of my best friends, and I was just waiting on him to step up, and it just never happened. And so that was another layer of disappointment, another layer of he doesn't care about me, he doesn't love me, and all these other kids think he's the greatest dad in the world, but he was a dad for me. So, you know, it was just a lot going on with that the time around when I was being born. I mean, in full transparency, I mean, I was a love child. So he was involved in he was married to another woman. Supposedly he was on a break, was going to marry my mom. And then, hey guys, October 24th, I come around.
Khaliah's here.
I'm here. Khaliah is here. So, you know, thinking back to that, it makes sense why he wasn't around. I mean, he had a whole nother family somewhere else, you know.
Yeah. And so when you call him, he was ready. What was it? Did you guys get together like the first time? Did you hang out?
We hung out. Yeah, it was awkward. It was super awkward, but we worked through it, and we knew it was going to be awkward. But the cool thing is,
what did you do? Did you go somewhere? Did you meet up somewhere?
we had lunch. We went to Seasons 52 and just sat there and had a full-on, authentic conversation. And it was so good.
Yeah.
I learned so much about my dad in those. I mean, we were there for almost 3 hours.
Yeah.
Just learned so much about him.
At that point, did you feel like you needed to hear an apology?
No.
You're good.
I was good because I got my power back.
Yeah.
When we give our power, like our power is showing up on so many different people who can like make us mad like that. We've given away our power to them. People say, oh, they stole my power. No, it's something we give away.
Yeah.
And they keep triggering us and pushing our buttons because they have our power. And the moment we like release that and literally let it go, we become even more powerful than we were before.
Yeah, it's so true. Even with kids.
See?
You know, I remember I was having a conversation with a kid. I said, when I was teaching a double wide, and we were overcrowded. So we were on this boardwalk in front of the double wide, and this kid was going to get sent to alternative school because he was going to fight a kid in PE class coming up.
Oh man! And he was planning it.
Oh yeah, he's telling everybody, I'm going to alternative school. I'm about to beat him up. And I said, how come? His name was Damone. And I said, Damone, how come? He's because we're in PE yesterday, and he called me a bitch and threw the basketball in my face. I said, so you're going to beat him up? And he says, yeah. I said, because he threw the bat and he called you a bitch. And he goes, yeah. I said, well, I got news for you, man. I think you are his bitch. And he said, what are you talking about? I said, well, if he can control your emotions
Just
like that,
language.
He is.
Yeah,
he is for sure.
Yeah.
And he says, well, I said, let me ask you a question. I said, this is back when Russell Simmons was, this TV show and all that stuff. I said, you know who Russell Simmons is?
Oh, you're going way back, man.
Yeah. And he goes, yeah. I go, if I said Russell Simmons is a bitch, and he heard about, do you think he'd get on his private jet and fly down here and punch you in the face? He goes, no, he don't care about you. I said, well, here's the thing. That you're thinking he doesn't care about me because he's Russell Simmons. The reason he's who he is, the reason is he doesn't care what anybody thinks.
Anybody.
And that needs to be you.
Yeah.
And so that day, I saw him later that afternoon. I said, "Hey, man, I see you're still here. You're not in alternative school. I guess you didn't punch him." He goes, "I skipped that class." But I figured,
Better.
you know
Okay,
what?
great.
That's a better bad choice.
That is a better bad choice.
You know what I mean? But that's so true. I think once we, even for kids to really understand that,
If they can get that early on,
changes everything.
Oh, everything. Imagine how many adults we know, including ourselves, that we still struggle with that basic, simple concept. But if we would have got that as kids, I didn't get that until 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And again, I'm in my mid-30s. So imagine how much more powerful I could have been in my 20s.
Yeah.
I went through that whole phase of getting into trouble and just crying. It was a cry for help. Yeah. And it really was just a cry to get my power back.
Yep.
That's it.
And I think it's just, whether it's a kid or an adult, it's going through phases, at some point we know that information and then at some point we can talk about that information and then we can claim it, but actually to be it and live it and then to experience it and do it and make the phone call and sit there at lunch, not expecting or needing to hear the sorry.
Because the problem is that we always have expectations in everything that we do. But if we just show up as, hey, I'm going to have an authentic, honest conversation and that's my only expectation and whatever happens is going to happen and trust that whatever happens is going to be what's supposed to happen, then it takes all the pressure off.
Yeah.
It takes everything off. That's just in kids, that's in the classroom, that's in corporate America. That's in our homes, that's in our community, that's everywhere. And that gives us the freedom to really, truly bring our whole selves everywhere. Not just to work, not just to the gym, not just in the community, but if we can show up at 100% everywhere we go, then I think we get that a little quicker and sooner, that lesson, that life lesson.
Yeah. In that meeting with your dad, that initial lunch, what's the most memorable moment from that 3 hours?
Just being with him.
Yeah.
Just sitting there and
Looking
staring
him in
at
the
his
eye.
face.
Yeah.
And wow, my dad has nice teeth.
Yeah.
I had braces. I didn't get his teeth.
Yeah.
My mom had good teeth. What? Why did I have to have braces? So I'm sitting there thinking about it, and then just the way he eats, nothing on his plate can touch. That's how I eat. So it was oh, that's where I get it from. Because my mom would her plate would be
Make a soup out of it.
pretty much everything in one bite. What's that? Oh, there's some beans underneath there.
Yeah.
Okay, but just being able to really stare at his face and listen to the way he talks and just the way he carries himself.
Sure.
That was the most thing I got lost in.
Yeah.
Because, what little girl doesn't want to be like a daddy's girl?
Yeah. Yeah.
Regardless of how old you are.
Yeah. And then when you were in high school and you went to college, did you go through that whole recruiting thing?
Oh, I did.
Oh my gosh.
I did. It was fun.
Yeah.
Talk about you think wow, these people are really getting all the letters and your coach calling you in saying, hey, here's a stack of letters, bring those home. And then they call you. I remember one time, my first phone call, I'll never forget. I was in the bathtub of all places. And my mom was like, hey, there's this coach on the phone from Baylor. And I'm on the phone, I got out the tub and just sitting there on the toilet, on the seat and just talking to this guy. It was just I knew him from a long time ago. And we didn't talk anything about basketball.
Yep.
That was the cool part about it.
Yeah.
And he was like, hey, I want you to come for a visit. And, I want you to come and check it out and hang out with the team and see if it's a good fit. And in that moment, something switched in my head. It's okay, this is going to happen. You got to make sure your grades are on point.
Yep.
You got to make sure that you're staying out of trouble. You got to make sure that everything you need that you can control will be in control for the other person to say, hey, I want her on my team.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I started thinking okay, well, hell, if Baylor's calling, well, who else is calling?
Yeah.
Who else are my suitors?
You're telling, I gotta go. I'm gonna see who else is gonna bring this phone.
Right. This is when it was B call waiting. Let's see. Hey.
Yeah.
Straight up from the
I'm gonna
landline.
take this.
Yeah.
That's all. I was in the airport and I was in line for security, and there was a guy in front of me, and he was a tall dude, beautiful suit, Rolex, the whole bit. I got this expensive shoes and matched his briefcase. That whole scene.
Yeah.
And he was making call after call after call. Hey, Robert, were your ears burning this morning? Because boy, we were talking about
Same
you.
thing.
We
Same
can't
thing.
wait to- Next call. Hey,
Hey,
Jimmy,
Joe.
were your ears
Your
burning? It was his script, man. Call after call after call. I'm telling you, it was in Chicago. I remember it was a really, really long line. It was probably a couple hours. He had to call 100 kids. easy.
Oh, he
Were
got
your
it
ears
done.
burning?
He got it done.
He's making it happen.
Yeah.
And he was, I'm not going to say which school, but he was a coach in Florida as well. Not your school. And it might have been like South,
Yeah.
just like your school, but South.
South. Got it.
Right. And it was just amazing that what he was going through to get kids to
Yeah.
come and visit. And man,
And nowadays it's a different monster, right? Like back then it was just pure innocent fun. Like
Yeah.
they were taking me places that I knew I wasn't gonna get exposed to in Port Arthur,
Right,
right?
yeah.
It was like, oh wow, like just the beach, something as simple as the beach.
Yep.
Yeah, like people were like, oh my God, like you have a beach in Galveston. I was like,
No. He said,
listen, a beach isn't brown water, okay? Like going to the beach with like beautiful sand and clear blue water, and it's
White
like almost
sand,
green, white
blue
sand.
water.
Like it's just sitting there, like, gosh,
yeah.
this is it. And the reason why I chose the school that I chose is because the connection that I had with the coach. And if I really think about it, everything that I've done boils down to a connection.
For sure.
Like because I'm energy based,
Yep.
I need someone I can feed off of because I want them to feed off me as well. And if the other schools didn't work out because at the end of the day, I didn't want to play for that coach or I didn't have opportunity to actually play. I mean, I was playing my freshman year. Everybody else wanted me to redshirt or, well, you have to prove yourself. And I'm like, yeah, I don't have a problem proving myself. But if I prove myself, are you going to give me playing time?
For sure. That connection is everything. It's interesting, like now as an adult, you can articulate it, but as a kid.
Like, what do you say to that?
You knew it felt right or you didn't feel it. You know?
I mean, as a kid, if I could use some language as kids do now, it's just the vibe. Is the vibe right?
Yep.
Are you dope? Like, are we vibing or not? You
Yep.
know?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes translating that to the lingo that the kids are using, it's easier for them to understand. Because you and I could say, hey, I'm inspired to have a human-to-human connection and embrace my uniqueness. For a kid, I might say, hey, are we vibing?
Right.
Am I cool?
Right.
Like, what's up, man? Like,
Yeah.
now, who are you?
Yeah.
You know, like who do you want to be in this world?
Right.
Versus like telling them what they're gonna be.
And I say, even whether it's an athlete going to college or even a teacher, I talked to a teacher moving to Texas, and she said, "Hey, I got these 3 schools in Houston. Which do you recommend?" I'm like, "It's not. What should I do? What you should do is come down here and go meet with the principal and go to coffee.
That's it.
Because the school doesn't matter. It's that relationship between the person you're going to work with when it gets hard." Which starts the second week of September. That's when it gets hard.
That's it.
Yeah.
And that principal is the dictator and the guide, right? And I mean, there are some schools in town who I'm considering working with. And what we're working on is my pitch was, hey, when I went off to college as an athlete, didn't matter if I was going to a JUCO, D1, D2, like whatever. No one prepared me for that.
Yeah.
Don't you think, Mr. Principal, as the gatekeeper of all things under this roof for the 4 years that they're here, don't you think you owe it to them to allow them to get in front of someone that can tell them exactly what's about to come,
Right.
or tell them like how to budget their money? I mean, my mother like drove me to Florida. We opened up my checking account a couple of days before I went to Florida, but we didn't have a conversation about balancing the checkbook. We didn't have a conversation about finances, about saving. Like we didn't have any of those conversations. So if I could tie in my banking experience and then what I know as a washed up athlete now, I need these kids to get this now because I wish someone would have told me this so much sooner than having to figure it out the hard knocks life.
Those kids that go to college, man, I can remember back when, I'm older than you, but I can remember sitting in the bank with my mom in San Marcos, Texas, my mom and my dad, and they give you that weird temporary checkbook and there's no name on
It's
it.
like
And you're like,
three checks.
It's like, this is
And
money?
it's like,
So I just got to write the number and they're going to take it.
right.
Unbelievable.
And I mean, I knew how to write the check out because
Yeah.
my grandpa, that was like one of my hustles. It's like, say, hey, grandpa, like, I know your site's not getting good. I'll come over and, write out all your checks for you.
Yeah.
So that was like a little bit of my hustle. I made money that way. So I knew how to write out the check, but like the balancing of it, and that's the miss. That was an easy miss, especially for my grandpa, because he showed me, hey, you got to flip to that register and you got to write down everything that you have. But he balanced it. He didn't show me how to balance it. So, I mean, it's stuff that we're already doing.
Yeah.
We just take one step further to say, okay, here's how you do it.
Sure.
I think in the school district, in the system, what we're missing is the how-to.
Yeah.
We tell them all about, hey, this is what it is, but okay, great. How do I implement the tools you just gave me?
Yeah, great at the what, but the how and the why.
Oh, man.
But here's, the challenges for every educator and principals and there's so many school leaders that desperately want all this for their kids is right now, in schools, there's just such a concentrated information, and we've got to somehow get into the mind of a kid so they can graduate, so they can pass the end of course exam, so they
Yeah.
can get by on the state assessment. And it's such a what I tell people, man, if you haven't gone online and take the released test, like a STAR test or whatever it is, if you haven't taken that,
And just take it.
you will freak
Forget
out.
it.
You will freak out because you will think, how can any kid pass this? I'm talking like the 8th grade one. I'm not even talking about
Also,
like
forget the junior and senior.
No, man. Like, go take a junior high math test and just see how you do.
Well, remember our conversation about math earlier.
Yeah, because
forget
here's the
it.
thing, because just like your mom said, I don't understand this new math. Let me tell you something. Every generation, like when you see what kids, algebra doesn't look the same.
No.
It's a whole different thing. Like, and I tell people, like, if you haven't done that, like, just so you know what teachers are up against. And by the way, the kid just showed up in September from Nicaragua, and they don't speak English, and they're going to take that test.
Oh, wow.
It's a whole different thing.
That is a different animal.
But at the same time, as educators, for making a lifelong impact on the lives of these kids, we still desperately feel the need to deliver the how and the why along with the what. It's just, how do we make time for that?
Yeah. And that's just it. I think there's time to be made. We just need to decide we're going to make time for it.
Right, make it a priority.
We just have to make it a priority. Because I'm guaranteeing, I think that's just the condition of it all, right? It's when we're conditioned to do something for so long, for such a long way, and then we have different priorities, or we have the same priorities, but if we just pivot a little bit to the left or to the right, then we can get an exponential growth in what it is we were looking to achieve.
Sure.
Just with a short little pivot can make a matters of an explosion of a difference.
Yep. Yeah. When you were in college, and was this your first time to start traveling? You're on airplanes and all that?
No, so family really exposed me to a lot early. I mean, that wasn't my first time. I mean, we used to go on summer trips, summer
nice,
vacation to Vegas or Orlando. I mean, Washington, D.C. I mean, my mom did a really good job of exposing us at a very early age. I mean, seriously, the whole thing about I can't play small because she sacrificed so much. That's true, because I met so many people, or even know people today who've never been outside of Houston, Texas, or a rock store around, that never been on a plane. So that wasn't my first experience. So I was already exposed to things because I went to Catholic school. I was exposed to different cultures. And then, we went on family vacation. And then, I was exposed to so much. So when I showed up to college, it was like, this is cool. Now I'm exposed to rich kids who are driving up in BMWs.
Right.
Because their dad works at Paramount, Like, I'm exposed to that. But it wasn't like, I never felt like, oh, man, like, like some people will say, well, why don't I have a BMW? I was just rich in spirit and rich in history that I knew if I worked hard, I'll be able to get it, because it was instilled in me at a very early age. I mean, I had a car in college. It was a car in high school too. It was just a hand-me-down.
Yep.
And it was, it was so funny how my mom did it. She was like, we're going car shopping. And I'm thinking, I'm about to get a car. You remember back in the day, the CRX or CRV,
Yep.
the one that from 16 Candles?
With the back
out,
yeah,
the one that Jake drove.
Yeah.
I wanted one. I mean, we went test drove it and everything. And so my mom was like, okay, cool. I know what you want. The very next day, I come home from school and she was like, you want to see, like, she gave me the car keys. She's like, you want to see your car? And I was like, yeah, because it was in the garage. It was her old car.
There you go.
With like the ceiling hanging.
The headliner?
Like I had the headliner. I had to
You
like
do
put
staples.
thumbtacks.
Your staples,
Man. And I was like,
Yeah.
she was like, you want a new car? You'll get it. You'll get it eventually. And she bought me a new car when I graduated from college.
That's what cars are supposed to be. When you're in high school, like, the kid, let me tell you. So like my daughter, we got her a car in probably, I don't know, just a couple weeks. The day we got it, the passenger side rear view mirror fell off, and I had to super glue that back on so we could give it to her. And then within a couple of weeks, she opened up the back door and the handle ripped off.
Oh, man.
But I'm thinking that's exactly
That's what she needs.
That's what you're supposed to be driving.
That's it.
And now the front passenger side handle pulled off, so there's only two handles, and they're caddy. So you got to open one door to get in, and open up the other. But that's the way a high school car's supposed to be.
It's supposed to be like a jalopy. It's supposed to be a little hoodoo. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you go through college. When you were in playing ball, were you thinking any WNBA, Europe, any of that stuff?
I thought WNBA because it was hot and heavy.
Yep.
I mean, all throughout high school, I watched, the comments, Cynthia Cooper, Cheryl Swoops, Tina Thompson, like they were my go-to.
Yeah.
I mean, they were wrecking it,
stars.
right? Like 3P, like forget it, like they were the dream.
They were the whole
team.
league.
They were just like killing it.
Yeah. What's the
And-
little girl's name? Kim?
Kim Parat. Yeah, man, she passed away. Like,
Sure.
I mean, that was the team, right? And so I said, yeah, I can do this. And then I got through college my senior year, probably midway through senior year. That feeling kind of went away a little bit, but I still was going to try out. And then my mom got sick, and I was like, I can't do this. Like, I've got to choose. Because then I was driving back and forth from Orlando to Port Arthur twice a month just so I could see my mom, because at that point, terminal disease. I don't know if I don't know how many more months she has.
Yeah.
Who knows? And I would regret it if I know how effective would I have been at a WNBA tryout when my mom's literally dying,
Yeah.
And
then when you were at that time, when your mom was diagnosed, how long was it until she passed?
So here's the thing. With ALS, rewind the tape back in 2002, no one really knew what it was. I mean, now it's a household name because of the Ice Bucket Challenge. But back then, I mean, she had knee problems. So it started with her knee. And the doctor diagnosed her, said, oh, you just got a meniscus tear. And he's like, okay, cool, we get this repaired. Because I had just had my meniscus repaired the year before. So go through the surgery. She comes and visit me in college at UCF, and she's on this walker still. And I'm like, Mom, are you going to rehab? And she's like, yeah, I just don't know what's going on. And I'm like, you should be fine by now. Like even I didn't expect her to recover as fast as I did, but it was like almost 8 months into her rehab. And so I said, something's not right. And she's like, no, I don't feel like something. I feel like something's up. So then she started having other symptoms. Like she couldn't swallow, or her tongue felt like it was swollen when it really wasn't, or she was losing feeling in her hand, all the symptoms of ALS. And so finally, 18 months after, so you're thinking she went 2 years without a proper diagnosis.
Yeah.
So she was living with ALS, working for 2 years, finally came to Houston. The Baylor Clinic was able to diagnose her effectively. And then that was December of 2001. She passed away a couple of weeks after my 22nd birthday in November of 2003. No, 2002 of the same year.
Quick.
No, yeah, quick from the diagnosis.
Sure.
I mean, it was
And then at that,
11 months in.
were the doctors pretty much straightforward with you at the diagnosis at that point about how advanced?
See, I was still in college, right? And so I'm the baby of the family, and I was all the way in Orlando.
They keep it from you?
Oh, complete secret.
Yeah.
Complete secret. I mean, I came home the thing is, when you play basketball, especially in college, you're only home for the holidays for maybe 2 days, if you're lucky. So I would fly in after practice the night of Christmas Eve, spend Christmas Day, and then the next day I'm back in Orlando because we got a tournament to prepare for. And so I remember coming home, and I remember her still, like, she wasn't with a cane, she was with an actual walker this time. And I said, what's going on? This is still this meniscus thing? And she said, no, we actually know what it is now. So, the whole family was there, and that's how they decided to tell me. They didn't want me to.
Yeah.
But when they told me, it still wasn't like they told me, right? It was like, my mom played it off like, yeah, it'll get better. It's fine. It's just a thing called Lou Gehrig's disease and, whatever, like that. And I'm thinking, okay, so maybe rehab, maybe they'll get on the right meds. Like, I don't know what I was thinking, but something in my spirit said something's up. And so I go back to college in Orlando. This is right when the internet was like on and popping. So I went in my room, got on my laptop,
all the answers.
Google Lou Gehrig's, and like bawling. And the next day, because then I read this disease has no cure. 12 to 18 months is the life expectancy. So I'm thinking, oh my God, the past year and a half, she's had ALS.
Yeah.
So if the life expectancy is 12 to 18 months, my mom could die any moment. The next day, I called a meeting with my coaches, and I said, keep in mind, I'm the team captain at this point. We're halfway through our season, and we're having a very good season. And I said, I don't know what I need. I need to do something. I don't know what it is. I need some guidance here, but my mom is dying, like literally. And so I printed off all the information for ALS and shared that with them. And I said, what can we do? I'm going to try it. That was the deal with my mom. She said, I'll buy you a car if you graduate on time. And so everything was on point. Like going into that next semester, I only had like 2 classes, and one of them were online. And so they said, well, we'll give you the freedom to go back home as much as you want to go, as long as you continue your workload. And, when you're in town, you come and practice with us, but don't feel obligated that you have to finish out the season. was a godsend.
Yeah.
And then my sorority sisters, they found out. I mean, they all contributed. I mean, we're in college, right? So for someone to contribute into a plane ticket to fly from
That's powerful.
Orlando to Port Arthur, the plane tickets are still the same amount of money they are today. Like that was $400 or $500. And for them to pull their money together and say, hey, we know how important it is. We love your mom. Because my mom would come to my games. They knew her.
Yeah.
They said, you got to get home. So, every other week I was either flying or driving. So I did that for 5 months. And then she passed away in November.
And were you there when she passed away?
Yeah, they called me.
Mm-hmm. And they said it's.
Well, because it was towards the end. I mean, it was bad.
Was she at home or in the hospital?
She was at home. Mm-hmm. So she was at home. Her boyfriend, they were doing Bible study, and then she just stopped breathing. And this was like the third round of her not breathing, because for those that are familiar with ALS, it literally like shuts down all of your muscle functions. So when you think of everything you do on a regular basis that we take for granted, breathing, eating, swallowing, walking, talking, like all that stuff eventually is gone. And so she had bouts with rounds, in between that whole time frame. But this particular time, it was just something in my aunt's voice. She called me in the middle of the night and was like, you need to get here. And I got to the hospital and she was unresponsive because she had been without oxygen for so long. Yeah. And then I called my sister, because my sister can't, every time something happens to her, there's an episode, she can't get on a plane in Philadelphia and then fly back for, an episode. So I called her up and I said, you got to come home. And so when she heard that, like she knew this was probably the end. So my mom did not want to be on life support. She was a feisty little woman. She took pride in herself. And she's like, you got to let me go. Like she had already had this conversation with us, And so I never forget, this is like how cool just life is and just the spirituality of it. The doctor came in and was like, yeah, she was without oxygen for too long to her brain. So, she's not going to be responsive. So if you talk to her, she probably won't hear you. And because she couldn't communicate, we created this whole way of communicating. And it was like blinking 3 times, that means I love you. And so whenever I had the room to myself, I was laying in the bed with her and I was just telling her, like, I'm going to miss you, and like basically saying my goodbyes. And I never forget, I looked up and I was like, I just love you so much. And I'm like bawling. Yeah. And she blinked 3 times.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And that was her way of saying, you're going to be okay. It was tough. I mean, I went dark. I spiraled out of control a whole year after she passed away, but she was right. I got through it, got fine. My sister came in, we unplugged the machine, and she fought another hour when they told us, well, as soon as we turn off the machine, that'll be it.
Oh my gosh.
But fighter.
Yeah.
Fighter, man. So that whole spirit, and I think for every one of us, there's somebody that has somehow impacted us in that way where we can tap into that fighter spirit. It doesn't have to be a parent. It could be a coach.
Sure.
It could be a neighbor. It could be, hey, Mr. Hal, Mr. Hal talk me out of like punching that kid in the face. Like we just never really know. Like what we do is just inspiring people to be their best selves all around the country and just live.
Yeah, and I think it's a combination of it's a combination of the right time and the right message.
Yeah,
and the thing is, you never know if it's the right time or the right so you just have to contribute and give to the lives of these kids or people in your workplace or in your family or whatever it is.
That's it.
Because you just never know.
You never know.
I can tell you, man, I'll see kids all the time that I taught 10 years ago, and they'll say, I'll never forget the day that you said, I'll have no recollection of the day,
at all,
the class, or what I said. Mm-hmm. But for whatever reason, on that day, it just meant everything to them.
Everything. And they carry that in their heart. That's probably what keeps them going.
That's the exciting part. But you know what else? As an educator, that's also the scary part. Because you have to think, what else did I say?
What else did you say?
That wasn't so happy and nice and funny, and the kid is still thinking about to this day. Because they remember everything.
Yeah.
It's
That's
in
true.
there.
It's there. That's true.
Yeah. And so your work with schools, so I know that you do a lot of corporate work, and you're in inclusion and diversity. You are the advocate powerhouse. And then but I also see on the interwebs that I see you standing before kids and teachers and doing your thing.
I am breaking into that I call it my marketplace. That's my passion, right? It's to really work and impact, because I want them to be a part of my legacy, and I want to be a part of their legacy. And I'm a full believer in teachers, kids need to get diversity and inclusion work now.
Yeah.
You know, for people that don't understand, it's like, well, what does that mean? It's simply inspiring each of us to have a human-to-human connection. How can we inspire a kid to show up as their whole self and not be afraid of the bully,
Yeah.
or be afraid of what the teacher might think, or be afraid of other people's perception of them, or perhaps even their parents?
Yeah.
And I'm having fun. I'm having fun all the time, but I'm really having fun to get the impact of these kids, man. I just did one at North Belt a couple of months ago, and it was the best. And what we did, it was called Fear and Superpowers.
Nice.
And so, because it's same dialogue and
Yeah.
same content from corporate, but we got to make it fun. That I keep their. I mean, these were fifth graders,
Right.
and or maybe they were in the second grade. I don't know. I can't remember which one. They were little ones, little guys. But I went out and bought these Hulk Hogan gloves. It's like some capes.
Yeah.
And we talked about, hey, write down on this board, like, what are you afraid of? And I asked them, like, it's all interactive, right? And I said, okay, so when I was running around the room, what are you afraid of? And we wrote it all down on this huge board. And they said, like, okay. And I come up to this board and punch it. And they didn't have their cape on. They didn't have their Hulk Hogan gloves on. And I was like, okay, punch it. And they punched it. And, like, nothing happened, right? And they was like, and I was like, that's what it feels, right? That's what it feels like when fear is like taking over you. And they was like, yeah. And then I said, okay, well, what if we did this? What if we ignite like the superhero and that's already inside of you? Because all of us are dope. That's how we unleash our dopeness in the world, because we're superheroes.
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, okay. And I said, all right, come on, I need 3 volunteers. And so I put capes on all 3 of the volunteers. I gave them the gloves. And I said, all right, now remember all those fearful words that we wrote down? I want you to punch through it. And it was all designed and set up so that they could punch through it. Man, they punched through that thing and they just kept punching. It was like, it's that easy, Miss Guillory. It's that easy. I was like, that's it, guys.
Yeah.
That's it. Fear and superpowers. What are you gonna do with it?
Right.
So I mean,
that's the cool, because here's the thing. What I love about it as an educator, I know when that kid is 43, he's going to be able to tell his child about that experience.
oh wow, whoa, man, you just gave me goosebumps.
That's the cool part about it. When
Seriously.
you create those moments,
Yeah.
that kid's going, check this out. We had, the details get messed up. We had these giant boxing gloves on, and they're about 4 feet across.
Right.
Because
right.
of the mind
Get
of
a
a
little
child,
scary.
everything giant.
Yeah, it's huge.
And we had a cape. I can still feel it on, and they'll still be telling that story to their child. And that's the power of
so.
working with those kids. I know so.
Yeah, man.
Here's the thing. I've done this for so long, for so many decades, that I don't even question it anymore. Where, people, teachers think, I just don't know if I'm getting through. Trust me, you're getting through. Because the crazy thing about kids is they will fake you out every time. Even in my 20th year of teaching, I would be, the kid would fool me. He's not getting it. He won't pick his head up off the table. He gave me the finger when he left. And then I'll see the kid.
Yeah.
In another state, like in Tennessee,
Grown
at the
man.
Walmart. Bowman. I'm like, I'll never forget your class. It was so much fun. Oh, fun? You gave me the finger. No, I didn't mean that. It was awesome. What are you talking about? It was awesome.
You flipped me off, dude.
I'll never forget the day.
You napped.
You slept through that day. What do you mean you never forget?
You gave him what he needed.
It's the crazy how they remember it all. But it's those are the kids that have they have the most vivid memory of those moments. And I think because, like you said, they're the most needy of them all. It's why they remember it.
I mean, it's so important. And it's so important when I'm speaking to these principals about this fear and superpower package. And they're like, well, we don't have the time for it now. I was like,
Yeah.
you can make time for this, because if you knew how powerful it was,
Yeah.
and now I got testimonies, right? So now I can,
Sure.
hey, what do you think about this kind of thing? And it's just one of those things, like it's going to sell. It's going to sell itself.
Yeah.
Right. But it's the need that we need. It's like they need to understand that they can really, truly accomplish what they want and not have to pretend to be anybody else that society is saying, hey, you need to be this particular person.
Or even if they don't have a model of it, for a lot of our kids are challenged the most academically, it's because they come from a neighborhood or a community or a family that no one has been successful academically.
Right.
So why are you even trying with me? Like, why would I even study? Why would I try hard? Why would I take an upper level math? Why would I do it? Look, this isn't me. This is over here. Like, we drop out. That's what we do.
Yeah.
And so it's not a question. It's for a kid like that. It's not even really a choice. It's just a reality. This is my reality of
This is my
life.
reality. But if I can see someone who looks like me, that come from the environment that I
Yes.
came from,
Right.
then now I might think that I can actually do this.
Yeah.
I did a keynote not too long ago, and that's what it was. It's sharing my story. Like, how did you become a vice president of a Fortune 500 company? Like, how did you start up a nonprofit? Well, first of all, we rewind the tape. Port Arthur's average household income is $30,000. That's the household.
Yep.
It's 200 and some odd dollars a week.
Yeah.
How are people living off that?
Yeah.
And then, battling everything else that I've had to battle. I mean, you can make it happen, because if you've got the right tools and the right attitude, and really the attitude is it.
It's huge.
I mean, if you got the attitude, then everything else will come, because now you're going to attract people who are going to want to help you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I come from a town that's not prosperous per se, and I'm proud of that.
Yeah.
Because that town taught me what it's like to hustle. And then I hustle in a way where, because I think now in my career, I'm starting to realize that I hustled in corporate America, and now I'm just in alignment in my own business.
Yeah.
Meaning that, like we were talking about, I could do things with grace and ease now. It will just fall into place. Like, I don't have to, like rappers are rapping about, I've got all these jobs because I got to make ends meet. No, I mean, unless you just want to have multiple jobs, but you shouldn't have to do it just to make a buck.
Yeah.
If you are walking in alignment with your passion and your purpose, it's going to happen.
And I think in school, that's the other thing is, my message because I taught at the end of my career when I was in the classroom, I taught mostly seniors. And that for me was the subtle hidden message of all that we talked about, was just like, what are you passionate about, man? Because here's the thing. It doesn't matter what you do, it's just so that it's designed to make a difference in the world and make the lives of other people better.
Right.
Like it could be law enforcement. It could be accounting. It could be anything. But it's the whole point is that the passion is going to come from the difference that you make in the world and you make in the lives of other people.
That's it.
So, and because the last thing I want a kid to do is go to college and get a job that they hate, and then because now you got to get credit cards, you got to get an outfit you have to have the costume for that performance.
You are wearing a mask.
Yeah.
You are putting on a facade for what you want society to think you are.
Yeah.
And then when you get past that and you realize I can show up however the hell I want to show up, that's when you've arrived.
Yeah, really.
I don't have to go in $100,000 debt. I don't have to drive a Mercedes Benz unless I just want to. Yeah. But I don't have to keep up with what's going on. I now don't have to worry about looking good.
Yeah.
My looking good is however I showed up that day.
Right. And in teaching specifically, the main thing I talk about with teachers we always talk about classroom leadership, and the main thing always is, for me, is the number one thing is to be absolutely authentic in who you are in front of those kids, because they're gonna know. They
could smell you a mile away.
Yep.
I'm like, nah, I ain't buying what this dude is like.
And even though it's an act and you're trying to present yourself, they know I call it, there's something that's not congruent with what you're saying and how you're acting with who you really are. And I don't know what it is, but it's something suspicious.
But imagine if we had a curriculum, and it doesn't have to be like a full-on semester. What if we just had a day?
Yeah.
Or a class period where someone came in and they talked to the kids about bringing your whole self everywhere.
Yep.
Like now. Like imagine that. Like you don't because they smell because then what happens is they're saying, oh, well, Hal came up in here and he wasn't really who he was, but he's this successful guy. My principal brought him in, or, my teacher, this is my teacher now. And they're going to start to think, well, maybe that's how I got to be. But if we say, hey, no, you don't.
No, you do your thing, man.
Do your thing, man. If you want to wear high socks and Vans with polka dot pants and a floral shirt,
kill it.
Do it. You perhaps could be the next fashion designer that's going to impact the way we dress all over the country.
Yeah. Now, here's what I know. I know that not just in the corporate world, but also in education, we need a lot more of you.
Oh, thanks, man.
So here's what I want you to do. If you could let people know where they can find you, because I know there's tons of schools that are always looking for diversity, and, and they always say accept. I hate the word acceptance. I love celebrations, like celebrating the differences. I don't want to accept differences.
No.
Let's find the weird stuff and celebrate it, man.
We embrace our uniqueness. Like, you can't it's like nothing to accept. Like it's like accepting the bad credit score.
Yeah,
except I don't have any money in my checking account. Like, no.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you just fired me up with that.
So how can people find your website?
Website, kogpassion.com. That's just my initials, Khaliah Guillory, kogpassion.com. And there they can find information on my workshops, on my keynotes, how to get in touch with me, to book me. I would love to do a consultation.
For sure. And last thing, let people know real quick about your movie, your documentary.
Oh man, the documentary is amazing. Like I'm sure I'm biased to it, but
I saw the trailer. It's awesome.
it's gonna transform the way we connect with each other.
Yeah.
Right. So I Am You Dimensions of Diversity is a 3-part docuseries. Part 1 is done, it's ready. I've already secured majority of my sponsorships so that I can screen it in the community, absolutely free, complimentary. I want people to come and check it out, and I don't want money to get in the way of that.
Yeah.
So if anyone is interested in taking a peek at the trailer, please reach out to me. Can email me at kg@kogpassion.com, but I'm always looking for sponsors. But this particular documentary, most people like docs, right? But the niche is that we focus on a multitude of dimensions of diversity. So when you think of a documentary on diversity, you're thinking transgender, you think race, you think sexual orientation, you think about all these things. Katie Couric just did one on sexual orientation. But the difference with our documentary is that we focus on religious freedom. We focus on military sexual trauma, which up until a couple of years ago, women who were sexually harassed were diagnosed with PTSD, and actually it is military sexual trauma. We talk about white privilege. You know, people don't want to talk about white privilege, but why not? Let's get it out into the open.
Yeah.
But it's literally legit gender discrimination all into one in one sitting, 35 minutes. Like you can't beat that with a stick. So we're casting our net wide so that we're attracting a multitude of people from all over the country who want to come and desire to yearn to have that connection and perhaps get some understanding how they can lean into the courageous conversation.
Yeah.
Because we get caught up sometimes. Like we're so confused. Like, wait a minute, you have a wife? Like, how is that? Well, just ask me. I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Right? We put our pants on just like you do in the morning, one leg first, you know? And so just asking those type of questions will just open up exploration of adventure. And, oh my God, like I had no idea I loved this particular type of food because it's a different culture that now we're exploring into that we had questions about.
Yeah.
It's that easy.
I love it.
Thanks, man.
I
You
love
coming
you.
to the screening?
Yeah. Send me a ticket or an invite or a text or
Done.
something.
I love you back.
All right.
To the
Thank
moon
you
and back.
so much for doing it. Such a powerful message. And you are just a powerhouse of inspiration and joy and awesome sauce. And I appreciate
Thank you
being
for
here.
having me on.
All right, cool.
Thanks, bro.
Thank you.